Well, good afternoon, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. It's the 18th of February, Saturday afternoon. Here we're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here in downtown Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's a cool day, but a blue sky day, so we'll take it. A lot of folks still say, why do you say the real Captain Kirk? And got a lot of new fans here on YouTube, so we'll briefly explain that. Again, dating myself some 33 years ago, but had a nice walk with this then not so famous general, just a four-star general, right, back in the day. Had a walk with him from the O Club, and forever changed how I think as a scientist and how we think here at Weather Trends, using year-ahead weather, using statistics and climate cycles as opposed to what we were taught in school at Rutgers, physics, meteorology, fluid dynamics. So pretty much had a data dump that after this conversation with this famous general. So again, that's how we got started some 33 years ago. We got a lot to cover today, and if you hang on to the end here, we are going to talk snow for the snow-deprived Northeast, so you're going to like to hear what we have to say here. A very snowy pattern appears to be emerging for March, as we thought it would. First off, we got to talk about La Nina. So La Nina is collapsing here, and El Nino is almost a certainty. Model left is a U.S. model, and Models right is another agency that puts out a El Nino La Nina cycle model. Again, basically all this is just the ocean, Equatorial Pacific Ocean, warms and cools. So right now we've been in a cold phase in the Eastern Pacific and warmer phase in the West Pacific. This is sloshing the other way. Think of it as a bathtub. It's going to go up and down, and now heading toward El Nino here for the Eastern Pacific by June, according to the model left, and similar trends May, June, July by the model right. So almost a certainty. The consensus really is that there is how strong it'll get, but weak to moderate El Nino seems to be in the cards here later this year. And this will have huge implications on our forecast. Looking at La Nina here, so you see all this greens, yellows, and oranges, that's above normal waters. So that was not the case here just a few months ago. So definitely see the warming of the Equatorial Pacific, and then you see the cooling out toward India. That's, again, sign of the pattern shift here. We think about this, it has huge implications, just one of many cycles that we factor in, but in our statistical math process for year-ahead forecasting, but huge implications. Under the 3-year La Nina cycle, we pretty much had drought in America, so we reached an all-time peak of about 85% of the country in dry to drought. Brazil had severe droughts the last couple of years. But that's changing, and typically you'll have, when it's dry here, it's wet in Asia, Malaysia, Australia. So that's the La Nina cycle, and then as we transition to El Nino, again, it's kind of polar opposite. It'll have sinking air and dry air toward China, India, Australia, and we tend to get stormier here in the U.S. and as well as Brazil. So again, huge implications here with this pattern. You already see it in the weather data. So this is the winter precipitation versus average. Here in the U.S., we're trending about 23% above average for the 1 December through today period. So you see all those drought areas that we had in California, the Rockies, and the Plains. It's getting erased pretty quickly. If we flip across the pond here in the Pacific, we see toward China, their winter has actually been quite dry, 35% below average. So again, telltale signs that this pattern is already shifting. Our PhD and climate expert Michael Ferrari will be speaking in India here this week, and again talking about some of this. So this is our forecast, spring-summer forecast for into the fall for India, and we have it the driest in 8 years. Again, so a telltale sign that the cycle is collapsing, and again, it's factored very well into our year-ahead outlooks across the world. We can see that even here in the data here in the U.S. Recall, we hit 85.3% of the country in dry to drought phases back on the 1st of November. Today, we're at 57%. So we've made a huge improvement. Even that dry area in California, and the Rockies, and the Northern Plains, a little misleading because that's the long-term drought. The reality is they're having a very wet winter season here. So this is getting erased very quickly, and we believe we'll be talking about 30-40% type coverage of drought, meaning very, very wet conditions as we had back in 2020, 2019 across the U.S. So again, pattern is shifting for sure. Also see that signs of that as you get colder and more frequent storm systems like we're getting right now. Again, tornadic activity is up about 181 so far, 223% more than last year, 148% above average. So we do believe this is going to be an active year, up near 20% more tornadoes. This is good news for the home centers, the Tractor Supplies, the Lowe's of the world. Obviously, you have damage. Unfortunately, not good for you and I as homeowners, but everyone else, again, the big retailers tend to benefit a bit from a stormier season, and that certainly looks to be the case. Season-to-date snowfall, again, is not much. Typical La Nina. La Nina's typically, in fact, La Ninas typically don't produce as much snow in the Rockies as they did this year, so got lucky there, but very unusual, actually, to see that much snow in a La Nina cycle. But the net nationally, where people live outside of the mountains, still pretty weak, 3% above last year, 20% below average, 6th least in 38 years. So not a lot of snow. We had some in December, and That's been trailing off here in January, February. That won't be the case here as we get into March. We think we'll pick up some ground here. Not going to get above average for the season probably at this stage, but certainly going to make up a lot of ground here the next few weeks. Looking at northeast snow totals here from NOAA here again, just about everybody other than buffalo and caribou is well below average. Here in our area, Lehigh Valley, we're at about almost 3 inches of snow. We should be around 23 inches, so way below average across the northeast. Again, good news is here we may be getting some snow here in the next few weeks. Again, we do think March will be the coldest, snowiest in 4 years, so hang on, northeast snow lovers. There is a chance here, and the pattern's looking pretty good. Weekly snowfall trends are here across the U.S. Again, so these bars show the year-on-year change in snow. So the real snowy week had been, the peak week was mid-December there, around Christmas time. Now it looks like we're going to break that week and have it be week ending February 25th, and could be very well the snowiest week of winter. So we'll see here. So those two big up bars, a very snowy pattern here for the next couple of weeks. Real quick here, last week we'll recap here again. So obviously in the U.S. here it was warm, 3.9 Fahrenheit warmer than last year, warmest in 5, 13th warmest in 38 years, so above average. Same general trend, warm east, cold west. Rainfall was up, kind of in the middle of the pack average, and snowfall continued to be down 21% versus a year ago, at least in 3. Up there in Canada, very warm as well, but again, that is changing. So you see the colder trends there across Europe and Russia. Again, that's shifting toward the Americas as this polar vortex gets on the move here. Again, it's sheared and ragged and falling apart here, so it's not symmetrical by any means. So that's good news if you like cold and snow, because that's certainly the case here. So it's a couple intrusions into the U.S., probably more frequent and fast in the northeast, so you may get glancing couple-day shots like we have here today, and then warms up again, but hopefully just enough cold air for a snowy pattern here. We also have a little bit of a blocking pattern finally in the North Atlantic, and that allows these storm systems to maybe get their act together closer to the East Coast here and get more nor'easter type tracks as opposed to these rain events that go straight out to sea. So we'll see. Again, the pattern certainly is looking promising if you like snow. This week here, ending the last week, full week of February, 25 Feb here in the U.S., still generally warm east, cold in the, you can see the plains, that Arctic invasion for the northern plains. 6.6 warmer than last year, 10th warmest in 38 years. So again, quite a bit warmer than last year. Also a little bit wetter, wettest in 5 years, 14th wettest in 38, but look at the snowfall there, plus 91% more than last year. So battleground between the warm and the cold. Toward the middle, you're going to have that heavy rain, heavy snow. So Rockies, northern plains, they need it. This is a drought buster for sure. So again, a lot of heavy rain, snow up there in the northern plains, even the northeast. We'll see here. This has part of Saturday. Saturday is the time to watch here in the northeast this coming weekend if we're going to get some snow in the, at least from the Philly to New York areas and here in the Lehigh Valley of eastern PA. We'll run through these 6-day snowfall maps. Not much here to start, but then we see that bigger storm as the Arctic air comes in. Tuesday, Wednesday is the bigger event, and then Thursday up in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. So, and again, so we aggregate the 6-day period here. You can see the very heavy snow there in the northern Rockies, plains into the upper Midwest. So again, putting this in perspective here, this is a snowy week for sure. 6-day period is the second snowiest in 38 years, most in 30 years. So very, very snowy week. Good week for clearance. Folks trying to clear out their winter snow accessories. This will certainly help. So make sure you capitalize on the next 2 weeks and the most of March as well. Looking at next week here, weekend, first few days of March, hard to believe, 4 March. 1.5 colder than last year, colds in 4 years, still 13th warmest. A little probably overdone here, I'm thinking, with the temperatures in the east. Again, I think there's going to be frequent cold snaps in there, but again, they're short-lived, but again, so cold and warm, but again, hopefully just enough for some snow lovers here. Look at the snow maps here again, more in the Rockies and the northern plains, and maybe for New England. We'll see here. Some of that's this coming weekend. Overall, 186% wetter than last year, wettest in 12 years, 5th wettest in 38. So no doubt this is a drought-busting pattern, and that's good news for the U.S. Most snow in 8 years, so much above average snowy week. If we just aggregate these World 2-week trends again, you see the polar vortex pretty much escaping northeast Siberia and heading toward Alaska, almost all of Canada, and northern or western 2/3 of America here. So southeast ridge, where that big high ridge is still hanging on, is going to be the warm spot here for the U.S. Preset maps versus average inset left. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week here. Sorry for the longer video here, but a lot to cover, and we will talk to you again this time next week.